Okay, welcome to the Monday meeting of the BOCC. We're going to start this with an executive session that I called for potential litigation. I think we'll start 15 minutes. Why don't we do that? Okay. Okay, we're back from executive session. No decisions were made. Gentlemen, we have you here to talk about what are we calling that thing? Dangerous dog. And I have a question. I was going to call you today, Brad, but I have you here, so I'll just ask you the question anyway. I was looking up and I saw, I don't have the bill number on me about being able to hire non-citizens to do law enforcement work. And I was just curious on what you thought. It kind of makes me a little nervous. And I don't know if you probably don't want to get into that here, but
I'm aware of the bill. I don't know the number on it. And I think they're looking at that. Actually, it's an amendment. It did go through last year. And this is a tweak in some of the language. Basically, it would allow essentially what's known as green card holders and also the DACA program. They're called Dreamers, kids that were brought here or born here as kids. I think technically, I guess they had to be brought here as children, but it would allow them to be hired in law enforcement positions. I know some of the sheriffs on the east side of the state are in favor of that due to staffing issues. And I know the sheriff particularly of Franklin County, which is Pasco, I think his population is somewhere in the 70% range is Hispanic. So there's a lot of support for it over there. I did have some concerns about the wording of it and kind of circumvented our Civil Service Commission, the way it was worded. So it gives the sheriff discretion. Really, civil service is set up to have an objective hiring process or create a list. This kind of circumvents that by giving additional points to candidates beforehand. So I'm not overall not really excited about it.
okay.
And I don't know that it would really apply.
I have to look at it deeper.
Well, it's already passed the Senate, right? And
Unanimously.
And yeah, similar bill is in front of the House. I don't know if it's gone forward yet.
Yeah. Okay. What are we gonna do with the dogs?
Well, good morning. We're back here talking about dogs again. And I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to chat about it. Last week, Ms. Grayson, myself, and Chief Admin, Jordan Spencer, had an opportunity to communicate regarding basic RFQs for the Dangerous Animal Board. And in that process, it became clear that there was some confusion regarding who was going to be providing the clerk, and the clerk would ultimately be provided by the sheriff. But in that discussions, it also became clear that maybe the Dangerous Animal Board might not have as much support from this board as might have been supported by the prior board that approved it. And so what we're here today to do is just discuss what other options are available before we go forward with that RFQ process. Personally, when I came in and presented the stuff on the two workshops that you were present in, I took no position on either option. First option being the board. The second option being, say, a hearings examiner or sending it to district court. But I think in reevaluating it, maybe this board might be considering that a hearing examiner might be a better option.
Well, I think we kind of lean towards the board because Lewis County was headed that way. But I think since then they've kind of abandoned that and put it over to the hearings examiner.
So, yes, the short answer is yes. In 2016, when things blew up in their face up there, they obviously took the politically savvy position and presented it to the people to make the decision on what is basically, is Fido going to live or not, and how are we going to approach, telling people that a family member essentially is not really welcome in the community. And so we're going to let the community make that, especially after, getting hit with some significant financial penalties through civil suits. As Ms. Grayson brought up, and as in my discussions with Jimmy, who is the civil attorney in Lewis County, discussed, the original board was under the Health and Human Services. And now it's gone, the ACA has gone under the guise of the sheriff, similar to what we have here. A board would still work here. There might be an inconvenience, though, for board members. As we presented to the board recently, as well as in those prior two workshops, is that, you're probably looking at 3, maybe 4 days where we'd actually use the board. That's not a lot of time for members of the community to be waiting by their telephone for a call that say, hey, we're going to need you this month. And that could be inconvenient, and probably you might see a diminishment of interest in actually participating in the board. The thing about having a hearing examiner or having district court, but what we're suggesting potentially is the hearing examiner, is that they're always available because, money speaks. And what a hearing examiner does do, and this is the important thing about both options, is that it removes the decision from the policing aspect or the policing arm of government and gives it to an impartial quasi-judicial officer. And that way, it doesn't look as if the county, the government, is looking to separate or take a family member away from, the alleged household. And
Yeah.
so we really want to have that separation. And so that's the decision that this board needs to make,
Yeah,
is where
I
do you
think
want to
that
go?
the separation is important. And I also think we'd be asking the board to interpret our code, kind of legal interpretation. And anytime you have volunteers on a board, you run the risk of having people that have emotions one way or the other. So I don't know what my colleagues think, but I'm kind of leaning towards this hearing examiner that should be more impartial, and it separates the duties, and that's what they do anyway. We ask them to do it on building issues, a hearing examiner, so.
Where does that person come from?
We we just reappointed a hearing examiner last year before.
Mr. Schottmeyer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He might be willing to do that. Otherwise, we could seek an RFQ for
Yeah,
interested attorneys.
that's how we got him. It was an RFQ process that went out and people would apply to it, and then we picked this gentleman he just mentioned.
So is this a new responsibility that he would have? Does,
This would be a new responsibility, my understanding.
so
it would
do we
be.
need to ask him if he's willing to do it?
Yeah, I think we would.
Yeah.
I think the answers are yes and yes. So.
And you said that we currently would use him 3 or 4 times a year. Is that just based on history?
Based on the number of actual cases that were referred or investigated, yes. That just based on history is not a lot.
We're talking strictly just the dangerous animal definition here, right?
Dangerous or potentially dangerous animal, yes.
Okay.
Or a hearing examiner would not deal with any other it's just a determination of those, one of the other.
Okay.
Just add a couple things. One, I know previously the courts dealt with this under the old ordinance, and in discussion with them, they really don't have a great deal of interest in wanting to take this back on, dealing with that. And also the way the code's written now, the hearing has to occur, can have up to 90 days. So we could stretch them out a ways and maybe if need be, do several at the same occasion, same date, just to limit the expense of it
I got
as
you.
well.
So if the current attorney that we have, he's on retainer, so if he chooses to accept this, and he had an animal case, it would just eat up his retainer. Or would we have to increase that?
I'm not able to answer that question. That's a conversation that this board would have to have with Mr. Schottmeyer.
Okay.
He's been retained by this board to do hearing. Obviously, yes, there is a retainer. I'm speaking generally now.
Yeah.
And that retainer is intended to cover basic expenses up to a point. So I think the discussion by this board needs to be had with Mr. Schottmeyer to say, A, are you willing to do it?
Mhm.
And B, if so, how much is this going to cost? And by the way, here is what we're looking at, maybe 3 to 4 hearings per year. It's not a lot, but, and this is what it will entail. And if you need a write-up of the basic procedures that would occur, I can provide that to the board so that you can present that to Mr. Schottmeyer in your discussions with him.
So besides the hearing examiner, the other two options we have are, I think you said district court?
Well, district court has once heard these types of cases. And as Sheriff Thurman stated, they were not really interested in retaining them. I think you're pretty much aware that, condemning Fido is not really is not one of those things that people want to really do. And when judges are political monsters just like everyone else who is elected. And so they want to ensure that they retain their electability, so, but that's a question and a conversation that this board could have with district court. And I'm sure that they would entertain the conversation. Whether they'd assent to it, I don't have that answer to you, but it's obviously something that maybe you should investigate and determine if they are willing to.
Okay, and so then the other option was for us to do it here, just to have a dangerous animal board.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's, 5 individuals from the community are just hanging around by the telephone waiting for a call. Yeah, we got one this month.
That would be the only board's responsibility, is that?
That's their only responsibility. And I mean, that is a big ask for people, hey, we might want to go to Cabo next week, or, we're headed over to Sun River to go fly fishing, whatever. And oh, now I got this responsibility. Wow. That's kind of inconvenient. And I get that.
okay,
And then the other option would be a hearing examiner.
right, okay. I'm comfortable with seeing if the hearing examiner's willing to do this.
Yeah, I am too.
So first step,
Would you write
Oh.
that up, what you talked
I'll
about?
prepare that for you guys and get that to you sometime this
Will
week.
this require a tweak in the ordinance we passed?
Yeah, absolutely. It was originally worked out that I included hearing examiner language. I'm not certain that I retained that language in the final draft after making the final draft. So I'll go through my records. It shouldn't take too much to address 613 if that's what if that's what the board chooses to do.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, and thank you.
Thanks for coming over. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I left this for you. I met with, and I know you've probably received a letter from them,
Yeah.
from Williams. They own the pipeline that runs north and south they already have a pipeline, and this is the spur that runs over to PGE. They're buying it from PGE,
Hmm.
and their project is to build a new station to improve the pumping ability. They're not digging trenches or putting in new pipe. And so they wanted to explain that project to us. They had people from Oklahoma, from back east, you know, they're putting a big push on this. They're having a meeting at LCC. I told them we do workshops on a Wednesday if they felt like they wanted to. I committed you guys without asking. And I said, if you felt like you wanted to come to a workshop, we'd schedule that and you could talk about your project if you wanted.
Yeah.
So. They, it was funny. There was, how many were there, Kelly? There was probably 7 of them. They came in to see me, so we sit at the big table here, and they're all, like you say, they had person from Oklahoma. There's one local person from down in Vancouver, and they're all trying to sell me on this, and I'm looking at it and go, I don't have a problem with this. But they're expecting, you know, just like we saw with the coal plant, the storage, the methane plant, there'll be somebody that will fight them on this thing, and so they're trying to get ahead of that.
Good for them, though. I mean, this is what I would have liked to have seen come out of Woodland, was this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been considering for the last couple of years of putting gas line in. I know there's gas in the alley behind my house. I was gonna have them go
Yeah.
ahead and run it up, put it in the house and definitely change my stove over to gas
Yeah,
and probably my hot water tank and my dryer. Just get it done because I think gas is gonna be readily available and a lot cheaper down the road as we go forward with the cost of energy sources. Until we
without a doubt.
get serious about nuclear, and as far as all this climate stuff, I careful what I say there, but the climate attitude goes, gas is by far the best option they got until they get to nuclear.
Yeah, you were there, and I thought this was very interesting at the meeting last Tuesday, the CCRs, whatever, the letters meeting. Commissioner Daglish from PUD was there
Right.
and talked about what town was it that was putting in a couple of those mini reactors that would,
SMR, small modular reactors. And it's in it, 2 on the east side.
2 on the east side, and they're about 3.5 million apiece.
Yeah,
Very and they'll run the whole city or
Wow.
that whole area.
And what's nice about nuclear is is there any environmental impact? I mean.
no, and there's no waste anymore.
Yeah.
These
it's
new ones are not like you think of the old Trojan.
Yeah.
Across over here. It's just not the same anymore.
Mhm.
The other I thought was interesting bit of news is everybody's yelling about the tariffs and stuff with Canada. Well, they entered a new treaty. It sounded like a 3-year treaty
Right.
with Canada, and Canada is giving Bonneville 30% more power
Right.
with no cost as part of the treaty.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an existing treaty. Basically, they just updated it.
Yeah.
And it's because, I'm sure it's because of the Mica Dam, which is a huge dam on the Columbia River that Canada built 40 years ago. But the agreement, when they built that, there was a treaty that said that there was a huge option for us to get more power out of that project as that reservoir filled up. Because it was on the Columbia River and it was gonna affect us.
Yeah.
So,
So you hear all this negative stuff between us and Canada. Well, this was kind of a positive
Positive,
thing
yeah.
yeah.
to hear that, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
big time.
thought those were 2 interesting things that I wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Those, I have to look more at those small plants. It sounds like
You
it
know,
could be a game changer.
I'm just stunned that how many people have still got this old mentality about nuclear? They haven't looked at it. They've got 3 Mile Island and the China syndrome and that kind of attitude about it. And the sad part is how many families send their kids off in the service, and the submarines and the flat top carriers, the aircraft carrier, all these ships now are nuclear powered.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they don't even give it a thought that they're scared to death to have one built in your town. And they got their kids out there on a boat
Yeah.
that's running off nuclear power.
And they're not the big sites like
No.
Trojan anymore. He said it's like a 12-acre site.
12 acres, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no waste anymore. They recycle it. So,
It was
yeah,
interesting to hear. Anyway. The other thing I wanted to bring up, have you guys seen this
yeah.
new proclamation?
For which one's that one for?
The Sexual Assault
Oh, yeah.
Awareness Month?
Yeah.
I, you, I- I'm not telling anybody how to do anything, but I don't like when they have all the numbers because I don't know where these numbers come from. And I hate spewing numbers that I don't know if they're
Accurate.
correct. So
It would be
I-
nice to have the justification or the background for those. I agree.
As this sits right now, I can tell you I would be a no vote on it. But they'd have to tell me where this stuff comes from.
I agree. I disagree with people that just sit down and get a proclamation written up and then ask us to pass something without any understanding of exactly what it's based on. Yes, I agree that there's a problem with sexual assault. I got no arguments with that.
I don't have any arguments with that. I just want to know that when I'm reading numbers here, that I'm being
Yep.
accurate and not spewing.
You know, you could probably just cross that whole bottom section off of there with the numbers and leave it well enough alone.
And it'd still be a good
And it-
proclamation
yeah.
that way. Yeah.
I might suggest that to them. Hey, I'm going to get rid of these numbers. Cause I just don't know where they come from and unless you can justify them and I can see the backup.
Yeah.
Okay. How was your,
I was just gonna say, we can report on our risk pool, conference. There's a lot of things that were brought up that we're gonna have to deal with as members of the risk pool that a lot of counties are dealing with across the state of Washington. Primarily, the number one, the statute of limitations being removed off of sexual assault, cases. They brought up, they told us that when California did this, they had anticipated an $800 million increase to the claims that they currently had. And to date, they're at 3 billion right now. So they were not anticipating that big of an increase. One of the things that was really disheartening to me was that they said that the part of the money goes to, and Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, goes to the Bar Association and they use that money for advertising. And to Commissioner Farrell's point, he said this when we were there, on the way there, I heard 4 advertisements for, if you've been in any Washington State correction facility and if you got abused, call this number of attorneys. And so not only did they remove the statute of limitations, but they're now allowing these attorney firms to spend money to advertise to get people into them. And so the risk pool said that we're anticipating a huge influx of claims with regards to that. They also talked about what our premium increase was going to be this year, which he said straight across the board, 25%.
Yeah.
25%,
25%.
25%.
Straight across the board.
Yeah.
They also
Is it
said
kind
that-
of tied to this?
to what's going on. And the other thing that
Wow.
they said was that the size of the claims has also increased. So where in the past, somebody would have got $1 million for whatever, they're now getting up to 3 times that for the same, claim. And so they said that the risk pool is one of the things that they're putting onto the counties to help mitigate what's going on is we have to find ways to reduce our claims. And so, Chelan, did you take the jail tour? Did you get there to be able to do that?
No,
One of the things that they did was they have a scanner program now where all of the inmates have, I believe they wear like a wristband or something. And it monitors everything going on within their body, heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugar, everything. And it tells them, hey, this inmate's having this going on, so they can address that situation, quickly and get on it. They said one of the largest, portion of claims that we have is jails. In the jails is where most of it comes from, and so they're looking for ways to have counties mitigate a lot of that and to reduce those claims. But it was very informational. There were a lot of things that we learned that were somewhat disheartening about the way that things work in our state, which was pretty frustrating. But yeah, there's going to be some issues with risk pool. And they also said that there are counties that were going to individual self-insured, but because of what's taking place, that they're not able to do that, a lot of them any longer, because they just don't have the capital to keep up with the size of the claims and the number of claims that are coming in.
And as drastically as it's changing, as it sounds, and using the California
Mhm.
example, how would you even know how much capital
Yeah.
to have?
no idea. And I heard these huge law firms advertising on the radio and specifically spelling out if you have a sexual abuse case, even if it was 30 years ago when you were a juvenile. I mean, they're spelling out that if you were in a juvenile detention center and it doesn't matter how long ago it was, call this number, we'll file a claim. And I'm going, oh my God, I can't even imagine whether you got no way, there's no records, they got no way to go back. And if it was 30 years ago, people that were in charge of those facilities at that time, they're dead and gone. I mean, you got no way to go back and
What do they
prove or
use
disprove.
as the burden of proof?
It's gone. I mean, there's no way to do.
It'd be very difficult, wouldn't it?
And that's to your point, Commissioner, what the risk pool is saying is they don't know at this point what they need in capital reserves because of what's taking place with the amount of claims coming in and with the size of the claims being what they are.
Yeah.
And so they said that 25% for everybody in the risk pool to start is what they're looking at. Yeah, increase.
And
Because
it's-
of that, they have no idea what this is gonna do, where it's gonna put everybody.
I guess we'll send the bill to the Port of Woodlands.
Oh, please, God, please. God.
Divert that to
Oh,
them.
man. Add an extra zero or two.
Yeah, but there were some things
Jeez.
that they brought up that Kathy and I discussed while we were there, that I know she's gonna look into and see if there's some things that we can do to help us out. So, but it was very informational,
Wow.
very eye-opening.
My participation got messed up. I lost a wheel bearing on my car on the way over.
You did?
And yeah, as it got noisier and noisier, I was going slower and slower.
Oh, man.
And
That's not a good thing.
yeah, I pulled off the highway several times asking people. One time I pulled off in a marijuana shop, asking them, where's the closest automotive center that I can get into?
Did they go, wow, that's cool, dude?
I had a lot of different fuzzy opinions about what might be making that noise in my car. But yeah, I finally limped it in and got in about an hour and 15 minutes later than I should have been to get into Lake Chelan. And I was just happy I made it without losing the axle, just burning it off. But I got it into Les Schwab first thing the next morning and they managed to get it fixed.
They got you all
Got my car back to me Friday morning, so I didn't have to stay an extra night in a hotel.
good for them.
Yeah, we did vote on a new executive director for the risk pool also, and he's got more insurance background and he's more claims focused and centered. So hopefully in the
Boy,
environment that we're in right now, he can,
feels like we're trying to chase all insurance companies right out of the state of Washington.
well, that's another thing that they said was that the number of insurance companies that we used in the risk pool has grown from 2 to 3, we're now to 7 because they're not taking on as much risk. So we're having to get different insurers for different percentages of different types of risk. And so our portfolio of insurers now
Oh,
is,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I think we're
Yeah.
at 7 right now.
Premiums are going up and the
Premiums
amount
are
of
going up.
coverage is going down.
Yep,
yeah. Wow.
interesting times.
Well, we can take 10 minutes. I will note Tracy Adam was here at 9 o'clock. I know. I've got a star on my wall. You always got a star. Yeah. Let's take a 10-minute recess and we'll be back at 10. Okay, we're back. We'll move into agenda item review. I see building and planning at the top.
Good morning, gentlemen. Tracy Jackson, Building and Planning, and with me is Adam Trimble, Planning Manager. And I want to commend, I think it was Mike Moss and Facilities for these nice black cushions. They're nice and clean and nice to sit on.
Oh, I
I
didn't
know.
even
I didn't notice that.
No.
Nice and
that.
cleaned up. It looks really
Okay.
nice in here.
Of anybody that would notice, it would be you.
It looks very modern. It looks
I know.
pretty.
Not this time, last. Oh, comfortable.
So what you have,
We have trouble.
just the public hearing
Yes,
tomorrow?
the,
It's just this private road thing, the
Yes.
D? Okay.
yeah, so the, public hearing is scheduled for tomorrow during their regular meeting. It will be to hear a planning commission recommendation to amend the Cowles County short subdivision ordinance. And this recommendation comes to you unanimously from the planning commission. It is intended to shift the approval of private roads and driveways within short subdivisions from Public Works Engineering Department, the county engineer, to the Building and Planning Department Director. And it was inspired to reduce the complexity and costs in processing private road development. And also just recognizing that we've heard many examples and feedback from county residents and our stakeholders that in these kind of small development scenarios where maybe you're just adding one lot or you're going from a shared driveway that serves 2 properties and you want to add one lot that now you have 3 properties on that shared driveway. The requirement would be to upgrade that shared driveway to a private road. And in those really small development scenarios, the cost of that upgrade can be pretty tremendous. In some cases, these developments are brought by the family members. You know, somebody's looking at the property they have and they want to add that lot. But the upgrade of that driveway can be a big lift, much bigger effort than the subdivision itself. And so this proposal would give the Department of Building and Planning the ability to approve that road. And it'll still be a private road, but it'll be built to a standard that can safely support a fire apparatus, emergency vehicles. It'll be adequate for that purpose. It may not be built to the standard where it could someday be upgraded to a type B or type A, as we call them, the higher grade roads that are meant to serve large areas of the county or multiple residences or multiple neighborhoods even. These are small scenarios. It's probably a dead end scenario where it's just serving 2, 3, maybe 4 properties. And Cowles County Building Planning will be able to develop a road standard that should be pretty possible for even just a family development to make that upgrade and make sure the road is adequate for emergency access, but not necessarily built to a standard that it could be upgraded to like equivalent of a public road someday, because that's not the scenario that we're dealing with in these 1, 2, 3, and 4 lot developments. So I hope that makes sense. That's the agenda for tomorrow is the public hearing. The board will be able to take testimony. This is considered a legislative change. So you can hold your own public hearing, make a decision on the recommendation, and decide whether to adopt the amendments. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have or get into the details if you'd like.
One question that I had as you were talking, Adam, as we transfer this over to building and planning, Tracy, is that gonna do anything to your staffing? Are you gonna need, is it gonna affect you in that manner?
With these roads, no.
Okay.
These are like fire apparatus roads. And we'll use our current staff and we have contract with Cowlitz too if we need their expertise.
Okay.
So we currently have that in place.
So could this be like a 1-lane gravel road as long as it'll hold the equipment?
Yep.
Okay.
I think sit in on the planning commission and they unanimously approved this. There were people that I'll say spoke against it, but you got to understand where they're coming from and they weren't really speaking against this change. Most everybody felt that this change would help. I mean, one figure I heard from a gentleman that works with these type of families and stuff is like it'll solve like 75% of the problems for the people they deal with. Their concern was that we were going to stop there and not address other things that they had concerns with. That was the negative. You can correct me if I'm wrong, you were in there, but that's what I heard.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
They were afraid that the review that the BPAC has worked for the last 2 years, they didn't want that process to stop. They wanted it to continue. And they were afraid if the board approved this little section of it, that the rest of the reviews would stop.
Yeah, and that's really the only negative I recall hearing. And when Adam talks about costs, it really came to light to me with two sisters that bought some property and they divided it and to get the road up to deal. And we got bids, there were like 80 grand. It was just outlandish. And so this helps solve some of those type of issues. So
Is it-
I thought it's been good work and I hope it goes well tomorrow. So we'll see.
So is it safe to say that with this happening and it going from Susan's office to building and planning, is I'd have to imagine that the timing of permits and the timing of stuff getting done, this is also going to expedite and make things go quicker.
It will. But these are just type D roads. These are just for short plats. The rest
So
of,
for those individuals.
the rest of them all still go to Public Works through the private road process.
Yeah, but what I mean is that since we're lightening the workload, from one department to another, it should help
Yep.
move things. Okay.
So how many projects right now in existence are gonna move to you? Do you know? Are there any hanging in wait?
On these private roads?
Right.
I think there's 4. I think we currently have 4 in process, but those aren't type D roads. I think those are B and C. So these would not be affected by this.
Okay.
So we don't have any currently in place that it would help.
I'm in favor of doing whatever we can to help out the
Yeah,
citizens develop their property.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been a long and trying process, but I think we got,
Well, this is
Little
just
bit there.
we feel low hanging fruit that we can help with. And then Susan's agenda item after ours will be part 2 of it. So if you guys approve this, then you will approve hopefully her new memo. So we'll see.
Are there any perceived drawbacks to this that we are aware of?
The only thing that we've heard is from the BPAC members specifically was they were just afraid that the other reviews on private roads were just gonna go stale.
Okay.
That was it. Everything else has been positive. Most of them do larger developments anyways. So it's just this is just a small piece that we can help with.
one of the things we run into, and I don't really have an answer to fix it. You'll find, and you can help me explain this, when somebody does like a short plat and then they put the road in and then they do another one and the road never gets upgraded. I know we run into that. Some people play that game. I don't think this affects the small people because these are just, like you say, usually you're one or two people, but that is a game that gets played that causes us some issues at times.
And it doesn't matter what rule you have in front of them or what policy you have in place, they'll all find a loophole no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Human nature,
Yes,
shortcuts,
yep.
Yeah.
Easy way out.
if you can get away with it.
Exactly. They just don't realize it affects their neighbor or the adjoining property or, yeah. Okay, so we'll be back tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
All right, thanks.
Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Ray, Public Works. Do you guys want to keep going on the public roads or private roads first, or would you like to jump around?
Whatever you want to do.
All right.
Follow your lead.
I'll go down the agenda then. So the first item we have for you today is consent item number 3, an operations, maintenance, and development agreement with Washington State Fish and Wildlife here for the Kerr Road Public Access Area on Silver Lake. So in 1997, the county did an agreement with Fish and Wildlife to maintain the boat launch there on Kerr Road. This is extending that. Not a whole lot of activity from us on that site. We're, maintaining the picnic areas, vacuuming out the storm drains once a year, low impact. We're not fixing the boat ramp. That'll be on Fish and Wildlife if they choose to do that. So just maintaining that relationship for another 10 years and keeping that open to the public.
Yeah, ironically, I had somebody ask me about this last week because and the conversation was they were up there and it was popular, it was crowded. And is there a way to get more spaces in there? And I said, I don't even know if that falls under us.
Mhm.
So maybe you can answer.
Must
Yeah.
be the same person that jumped on me about it.
Probably so.
Even people in our office ask that they dredge and realign that boat ramp so it's easier to get the boats in and out. It is a state-owned property. We just facilitate the day-to-day maintenance on it.
So any more additional parking spaces or anything is a Fish and Wildlife thing?
Yeah, we can look at that and get with them and come back to you on some sort of result on that if you'd like.
I know a couple of us have had a question
Yeah.
on that, so maybe
We can always ask the
if you
question.
can ask and at least we'd have an answer, right?
And if there's not anything immediate, do they have any plans to expand that parking lot for more people to access it?
Well, they're increasing their licenses by 35%, so hopefully they have plans for it.
Yeah, good luck.
They should have the money for it, right?
They probably got the
Yeah.
money to dredge the lake too, but they're not doing that.
I also had people tell me that our parks department was responsible for, there used to be buoys or something out there. Is that true? Do you know?
Silver
I,
Lake?
I don't know about Silver Lake. I know we had,
Buoys, and they
yeah.
said our parks were originally put them up and I'm going, I have no clue.
I have no idea. I know we were responsible for the ones on Willow Grove before the port took it over, but I know nothing about being responsible for
Okay.
Silver Lake.
Okay.
What kind of buoys are we, like the no wake buoys or?
Yeah, something, I don't know what they all said, just an old timer said, well, those are all gone now, and I remember your parks put the first ones up, and I go, he wasn't asking for more, he was just kind of.
Was it just at the boat launch area he's talking about or
Yeah, in Silver Lake,
the whole lake?
yeah,
Oh my God, I don't know.
yeah. I thought it would be odd that we would be responsible for that. but-
Yeah.
We can always inquire and see what kind of history we can find on that if you like.
Like I said, it wasn't anybody asking for anything being replaced, they were just kind of telling me history, and I was going, wow, okay.
There's no more question on that one. Next up is number 4 on the consent agenda. It's amendment number 3 to the professional services agreement with Engineering Solutions. adding an additional $100,000, bringing the total contract to $450,000. This is for two items. The first item on that that would cover is our source testing of the flares at headquarters landfill. So we'll be source testing both of those flares. It's in every 5 years we have to do that. Last time we did it, we had a destruction rate of 99.9997%. And so we just have to do that process. And so that's what that first bit's for, and that's about $75,000. The last part of that is to continue on with our greenhouse gas reporting and third-party verification. That's a newer project that started last year with the Climate Commitment Act from the state. We have to do a third-party verification. And so this is for 2024's third-party verification.
And is that second half going to be done every year? That climate part?
It does.
It does.
Just making notes,
Sure.
trying not to gag. Okay.
That's all for me. I think Susan's next.
So then our final item is the motion item, which is the amended and supplemental memo for the private road standards. It amends the existing memo, adding the type D road and changing the definition of a type C to take out the items that go on a type D roadway. At this time, that is all we're changing. We have the general standards, just so that you know of what I put in the memo. So for permitting and review, a private driveway or private road that serves more than 2 but less than 5 shall be considered a lesser type of access and shall meet the requirements of a type D access, which shall be defined, regulated, and approved by the Department of Building and Planning and the building official. So that is how we're putting it in the memo for approval. And then we took out the definition, the lower number of lots from the type C roads. So that is the amendment and supplement to the existing memo.
Okay.
So specifically, less than 5 is 4 or less, or 5 and less?
Less than 5
5
is 4
or
and
less.
4 and
Okay.
less, yes.
So 5 or more goes to the next class.
Goes up to type C, which is what it is in now.
Okay.
So
So tomorrow we'll run through the public hearing, and when I close that down, then we'll go into this motion item.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. You're just hanging out?
We're hanging out for miscellaneous when you're ready.
Oh, I think we're good. Okay, go ahead.
You want to go first? Go ahead. Assist.
So the miscellaneous item that I have is today is the exciting day that every year we submit our CRAB reports for 2024. So as part of that, there will be a certification coming through for Commissioner Dahl's signature. The certification basically states that, yes, we are reporting our financial records for 2024 accurately. So we include this reporting season is the pavement management certification, the CAPA, which is County Arterial Preservation Account. I had to memorize that one. The last day always gets me. Reporting how much we've done on fish passage. This is a CRAB initiative to let everybody know how much we're spending. Certifying that we did not do any work outside of the right of way. And then the report of what we spent in our annual construction program. Did I forget any? Because it's 6, right? And then the certification makes 6.
Yep, I think so. I think you got most of them.
So that they were doing a final review this morning. So once everything looks good, we will start processing that through for signature.
My miscellaneous is in regard to some legislation currently going on. I think in the past, we've talked a little bit about Senate Bill 1154. This is the one that allows Ecology to approve permits and override some of the jurisdictional health department. Through our legislative group, through WASAC, they've asked that we write some letters and possibly testify on this bill in the future and how it could affect our local landfills. So we really wanted to just talk with the board on that and get a blessing that would allow us to go down that path and represent the county on some of these issues on this bill from a solid waste perspective.
What is it the bill wants to accomplish?
Yeah, so a lot of the bill, starting from the top, it requires the Department of Ecology to approve all permits for landfills prior to issuance or renewal by the jurisdictional health department. It authorizes Ecology to suspend a permit, impose civil penalties for a solid waste handling facility that is operating in violation of any solid management requirements. And then also requires the jurisdictional health departments to report to Ecology every 5 years. But we come down to some difference of perspectives. As staff changes within Ecology, sometimes the perspectives change, the requirements may change, the goalpost may move. And, we've seen this in Stevens County already previously, where the jurisdictional health department there says, yes, this is good. They're doing 3 times the required reporting, but the health department, the state says we want more. It also allows Ecology to, currently as written, allows them to come in and override the local health department without request from the health department itself. So we may be looking at dual enforcement authority challenges and other things along that where, the local board may think this is great following up to permit, while Ecology may have a different perspective on that.
So what I'm hearing is this gives Ecology Olympia more authority.
It does. I think what we'd like to see in the end is the ability for Ecology to come in if the health department requests it. Sometimes there are issues, especially in Eastern Washington right now with certain landfills, where the health department needs some assistance or impose some civil penalties on that. And they just don't have the authority to do it. And if there was a request for Ecology to help out, that'd be great. But we'd really like to see that request and not just an override of the department itself.
Well, I'd probably be stronger on that, but you're just asking if it's okay for as a landfill, you guys to write letters or go up and speak at
100%.
any of these committees.
Yep.
Yeah. You're the one that's knowledgeable.
Perfect. Thank you.
And you can call them nitwits if you want.
I'm not going to do that.
You can refer him to Commissioner Dollars.
Yeah.
I'm quoting.
You can tell them I called them nitwits. How's that? You can.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I see Jessica. Jessica, I see you in the room. You want to just move forward? There we are.
Good morning, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I just have a request for an executive session for performance of a public employee.
Time?
5.
Okay. Okay, we'll go into executive session, performance of a public employee, 5 minutes. Okay, back from executive session, no decisions made. I'll turn it back over to Jessica.
Okay. I have a request for Human Resources. I'm requesting to increase the steps for my HR analyst and my senior HR analyst by 1 additional step, which is roughly 2.5% each. effective April 1st, and then they would keep their regular step increases on 10-1 for the HR analyst and 2-1 for the senior HR analyst, 2-1 2026 for the senior.
Okay. I think, I don't see anybody opposed.
No.
Thank you, I
Okay,
appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Mount St. Helens Learning Institute, we did a support letter for them to our state legislature, right? For some funds to that, and they're asking for the same for our federal. And it looks like it's pretty much, they're looking at infrastructure stuff. I know they've had some issues with their septic and their water systems. So they're asking us for a letter of support that they can send to their federal representative.
Yeah, I read through this. I got no problem with it.
Okay, so we're all good with that. Good. I got. Okay. Gina. There she is. So it looks like on your homeless housing, is this, Ray's been on there a while, this is just a reappointment?
He's not currently appointed to the board. He has served 2 terms previously. So he has spent 4 years on the task force. He wasn't appointed the last time he applied. No, he's reapplying now to serve as on another term. So he's eligible to serve another term, and we have a couple of positions open. So
And nobody else has come forward?
not that I've seen. The Homeless Housing Task Force can have up to 15 members. We currently have 12 members. It doesn't mean we have to have 15. It's just sort of an up to amount. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but Gina, it says that he was not reappointed. Was that his own choosing, or what happened with that?
When he applied, I think it was 23 or 24, the board chose not to reappoint him at that time.
Was there a particular reason?
I'm trying to remember back. I'm not sure if there was other applicants, or it was just the position of the board at the time.
Did you have the full 15-member board at the time?
I don't believe so. I don't think we've ever had a full 15 membership. I think we've always been around 10, 12, 13, right in there.
I guess that leaves me questioning why, if he would have been a member within the 15, why he wouldn't get reappointed. Is there a limit to the number of general members on the board?
There's not, no, there's a few required membership pieces which we have in place. I think just 3 required memberships which we have in place, and the rest are general.
So do you have any issues with him being appointed to the board?
No, I've worked with him. Like I said, he's served on there before. I sit with him on another advisory board, so I know him well. So, yeah.
I remember I did vote not to have him back on here. I don't, I like Ray. I don't have any problem with Ray, but his philosophy and my philosophy are diametrically opposed when it comes to homeless, so that's why I said no.
Okay. So it was just a philosophical difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not a obnoxious person or mean person or anything like that.
Okay. I guess if everybody's comfortable with it, I'm not opposed to it.
I'm not either.
Okay? Veterans, do we have an opening?
Well, we do not. The Veterans Advisory Board has in their bylaws that they have 9 members. And we currently have 9 members. We do have one member I'm checking with, due to their attendance, but they are still currently a member. So, as of right now, we are full on that advisory board.
Well, I know this gentleman was introduced to me. I know there's certain people who'd like to have him, but if we don't have any openings at the current, there's nothing to fill, right?
Yeah, that might change. Like reached out, like I said, I reached out to one member just to touch base about their attendance and see if they still want to be on the advisory board. So we could certainly, circle back if the member drops out of the advisory board.
If that member drops, I don't have any issues here. All I'm saying is I don't think there's an opening right at the moment. So we'll just I think there'd be nothing to fill unless you find out different.
We're just gonna hold on to that application
Yeah.
for now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Silver Lake, I don't think Gary's on. Gary from WSU kind of oversees that committee out there. Basically made up by a lot of locals, and they just kind of monitor Silver Lake. There's things they'd like to have. I can tell you that. They'd like. Is he on? Oh.
I don't see him. But there he is.
Good. Can you hear me now?
I can, Gary. How are you?
Excellent. Good morning, commissioners. Gary Fredericks with WSU Extension. I have been on the Silver Lake Watershed Committee since it was formed quite a long time ago. So be happy to answer any questions.
How many sit on that, Gary? Do you remember?
I believe 7.
7?
Correct.
Do you know this gal at all, Sarah?
I know that she's made a couple of meetings. I don't know her very well. Since I'm not really up from the Tool area, but she's quite active. She has given some good views and some great insights. I know that we had John Byers just stepped off of the committee just recently, so I know there is one opening.
Okay.
I wouldn't have any hesitation in bringing her on.
Okay. That's good enough for me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
I really appreciate you being easy on me this morning.
Always, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to hosting all 3 of you individually tomorrow at WSU Extension.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that's it. I don't see anything else, right? We heard about the trip. We're all good. Okay. Till tomorrow morning, we will adjourn. Thank you.